Did you know there's a new Unearthed Arcana out?
I saw that. Draconic options. Let's talk about it, Ted.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
I'm Nerdarchy Steve. Welcome to Nerdarchy for nerds by nerds.
It's time to unleash all the dragon as we dive into this video.
All right, so this is exciting. We just got a new UA today. We're getting ready to shoot videos, and we get a message saying that there's a new one up. So we're going to literally, I have not even read these yet. I barely glanced at them. We're going to read through them live here as we do the video and talk about it and kind of give our reactions, what we think. We're going to get 3 new Dragonborn options for a chromatic, metallic, and gem.
We're also going to get a new revised Kobold. We're going to get 3 feats, and we're going to get 7 new spells.
Now, you can probably find all this over on D&D Beyond. We'll put links down in the description. It's only fair to mention they are a sponsor of Nerdarchy in this video in particular. So hopefully by the time we get this video up, there will already be up on their website. You can look it over there and add it to your characters as you're building it to play test it, or you can go over to Wizards and check it out over there as well. So, with that in mind, there's like one thing that jumped out at me right away when we're looking at the spells.
So is that all of the actual named references that are, rich in Forgotten Realms and D&D lore?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, right, Fizzband jumps out to me. I'm like, oh, that's Dragonlance. I guess they're doing a Dragonlance book. And then I saw Icing Death. I'm like, wait a minute, Icing Death is Forgotten Realms.
Yep.
And then we did a little research, and we've got 2 more dragons.
We got Nathir and Ralathim, both from the Forgotten Realms. One a deity, another one, more of a solitary type dragon. So like they're definitely, reaching out there and finding some names that are known.
So the question that begs to ask the question: are they doing basically a generic Draconic book? Because we've also gotten a couple of Draconic subclasses as well. Or is it all just a red herring and they're actually going to launch Dragonlance? I don't know, but why don't we speculate down in the comments? Share your opinions with us in the Nerdarchy community.
And while you're down there, don't forget to stop by that spot and do all the things that make YouTube happy. Like, share, subscribe, even attune to that notification bell.
Quick reminder, we drop new Nerdarchy videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So come back over to the channel and see what's going on.
All right, so since this is an Unearthed Arcana, they're continuing with their their mindset, or that idea that anytime that there is an option to choose things by your race or your heritage, that you can put it in there. So we're not going to read through those sections, but basically you're going to get to choose common and another language, choose your stats as you will, and that, for the most part, races are humanoid. So first up is the Chromatic Dragonborn. Dragonborn with the chromatic ancestry claim the raw elemental power of the chromatic dragons. The vibrant colors of the chromatics, black, blue, green, red, and white, gleam in their scaled skin in the deadly energy of their breath weapons. Theirs is the raw elemental fury of the volcano, of the biting arctic winds, of the raging lightning storms. Theirs is also the subtle whisper of swamp and forest, corrosive and toxic.
Yeah, this is hilarious, man. Because originally Dragonborn are described as like kind of being the same color, and it's like these muted like browns and coppers maybe, and they all kind of look the same, but they have different Draconic heritages, and they can tap into those elements from that ancestry. But I'm like, we've talked about this before. I don't know anybody that plays a Dragonborn like that. Everyone I know, they're like, I'm a red dragon, I'm a gold dragon, and like they have the scales to show it.
I completely agree, and I'm happy to see that the concept of what these things are is actually coming through. You can play with genetics and see what would happen. If this one mates with that one, and what does that beget, and what have you. But all in all, I think it's more fun. Putting all of that genetics, putting all the science behind it. I'm playing a fantasy creature. I want to be that thing. I want my horns to look like the one that I like the most. What have you?
There's a reason you chose to be a Dragonborn, right?
It's true.
So, creature type, humanoid, size, medium. Your speed, you have a walking speed of 30 feet. Then we actually start getting into the abilities. Chromatic Ancestry. You trace your ancestry to a chromatic dragon, granting you a special magical affinity. Choose one type of dragon from the chromatic ancestry table below. This determines the damage type for your other traits as shown in the table. And it basically just lists the chromatic dragons and what the damage type that would go with them. I mean, we know dragons, we know D&D, so, we know what those are.
Yeah, nothing new here. With the breath weapon, when you take the attack action, you can replace one of your attacks with an exhalation of magical energy in a 30-foot line that is 5 feet wide. Each creature in the area must make a dex save against your DC equal to 8 plus your con mod plus your proficiency bonus. A creature takes 2d8 damage of the type associated with your ancestry on a failed save and half as much on a successful one. This damage increases by d8 when you reach level 5, level 11, and level 17. So it goes, 2d8, 3d8, 4d8, and 5d8. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So we're already seeing a scale up in the damage, as well as how often you can use it. So I'm definitely happy with this.
Yeah, so before it's like every short rest, and now it's like your proficiency mod. So that can be more or less depending on how your games go. Most important part, and it's funny because it's kind of what we've been thinking all along, because in our personal games, we take the Dragonborn breath weapon and allow the Dragonborn to do it as a bonus action, because it doesn't scale well enough for it to be a great option at higher levels. And it's like, look, you became a Dragonborn so you could, breathe your energy type on people. Well, now when you take the attack action, you can replace an attack. So if you're a melee combatant, you can use it to, instead of one of your strikes. So it's super useful in that regards. If you're a caster, it's still like you have to kind of pick and choose as far as that goes, but it's still an improvement.
Absolutely. But you're not through there. You also have your Draconic resistance. You have resistance to the damage type associated with your chromatic ancestry. Nothing new there. It kind of goes hand in hand with what was going on before.
Yeah, and then we get chromatic warding. Starting at 3rd level, as an action, you can channel your Draconic energies to protect yourself for 10 minutes. You become immune to the damage type associated with your chromatic ancestry. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So this is cool. I like this buff.
I mean, being able to be immune to your element for 10 minutes, I dig it. It doesn't require any other resource. You just have to wait till you're 3rd level to be able to get it. And you know what? You're a red Dragonborn. You're going up against a fire elemental. You'd be like, yeah, I'm going to get this one. And you just be like, boom! You charge in, and all the flame damage, all that fire damage means absolutely nothing to you because you just chose to be immune to it. So I absolutely love this change. We still don't have that dark vision, but I can get over it.
Yeah, we're definitely moving in the right direction. Next up, Metallic Dragonborn. Dragonborn with metallic ancestry lay claim to unflinching tenacity of the metallic dragons, brass, bronze, copper, gold, and silver, whose hues glint in their scales. There is the fire of hearth and forge, the cold of high mountain air, the spark of inspiration, and the scouring touch of acid that cleanses and purifies.
So, I mean, again, they make mention to the fact that these metallic colors, gleam in their scales. So it's hearkening to that concept that we were talking about before. But with their traits, they're a humanoid. Their size is medium. Your walking speed is 30, and you get, just like the chromatics, a metallic ancestry. You trace your ancestry to a metallic dragon, granting you a special magical affinity. Choose one from the list below, and it determines what ability you have, just like the chromatics. And as you saw before, you have that chart that you're already used to that links what element to what type of dragon.
So there is one difference, though. For whatever reason, chromatic dragons shoot a line of 30 foot, and metallic dragons shoot a cone of 15 foot. Doesn't really matter to me that much. I'm happy with the changes they've made. Before that part was more dependent on what kind of breath weapon you had in the dragon ancestry. Now it's just like metallic or chromatic. And then moving on from there, We get Draconic resistance. It's exactly the same, whatever energy type you're associated because you're dragon. And then we get into their third level ability, Metallic Breath Weapon. At third level, you gain a second breath weapon when you take the attack action. You can replace one of your attacks with an exhalation of magical gas in a 15-foot cone. The save DC for the breath weapon is 8, plus your Constitution modifier, plus your proficiency bonus. When you use this ability, choose one. Each creature in the area must succeed on a Strength saving throw or be pushed 20 feet away from you and be knocked prone. Each creature in the area must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or become incapacitated until the start of your next turn. Once you use your Metallic Breath Weapon, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. This is kind of interesting. It's tied to your other breath weapon. Oh, it's in addition to. So it
Correct.
It's not even like, you have to pick or choose. So that was my only concern. Like I said, we're just reading these now.
So you basically get an extra breath weapon that's usable once per day. It's pretty useful. I think, being able to exhale a cone of gas that turns everyone incapacitated if they fail. I mean, that can be a combat swinging, ability. So yeah, I'm definitely digging that one.
So I've got a question for you. When you use a breath weapon, replace one of your attacks with an exhalation of magical energy.
Mm-hmm. Dragonborn fighter. Your proficiency bonus gets up to 3. You get to 11th level. Breathe. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. I was wondering how you interpreted that.
I have already seen that happen, and I'm like, all right, I'm a loose a thing, make them all incapacitated, then loose a thing to make them automatically fail, and then. Well, they're still incapacitated, so I'm gonna make a fail again.
Yeah, I mean that actually makes fighter types and warrior types, anything that gets extra attack, really better at using their breath weapons in some regards. I mean, obviously you're gonna go through it really fast than spellcaster, so I find that a little bit interesting.
Yeah, I definitely looked at that as well, but I mean, you get a limited number of uses, so if you want to put all your fish in one barrel, as they say, sure, I'm all for it. But I definitely interpreted that right from the get-go of, when you can use it to replace one of your attacks. So if you got extra attack, doesn't say you can only do it once per round. So yeah. All right. So next up is Gem Dragons. Dragonborn with the Gem ancestry partake of the heritage of all Gem Dragons, who claim to be heirs of the Ruby Dragon Sardior, the firstborn of all creation, made by Bahamut and Tiamat in the first days of the first world. The colors and mysterious powers of the Gem Dragons, amethyst, crystal, emerald, sapphire, and topaz, gleam in their scaled skin, and of course through their veins. Theirs are the wonders of the mind, the force of will, the brilliant light of insight, and the resounding echo of discovery, and the desiccation of despair.
All right. So, just like the other dragons, you're a humanoid, medium size. You have a walking speed of 30 feet. Then we get into our ancestry, Gem Ancestry. You trace your ancestry to a Gem Dragon, creating you a special magical affinity. Choose one type of dragon from the Gem Ancestry table, and that determines the damage type of your other traits as shown in the table. I'm actually going to read these for 2 reasons. One, because Gem Dragons are a little bit more rare than the ones we're used to, the metallics and the chromatics. And we're getting different energy types. So amethyst is force, crystal radiant, emerald is psychic, sapphire is thunder, and topaz is necrotic.
Now, I'll kind of take a break here from, reading the stuff. Like, Gem Dragons did exist in earlier editions of D&D, and here we are years into 5th edition, and we don't have much in the way of talk about Gem Dragons. Prior to this, there was like the single stat block that was released for the Sapphire Dragon if you had bought, the limited edition Sapphire Dragon from WizKids. That was the only place that I had actually seen that one. And I've been kind of waiting of like, all right, are we going to get anything new? Are we going to get the others in all of their iterations? So like the fact that we're seeing this in the Unearthed Arcana that is talking about Gem Dragons, I'm excited to see what other things wind up, coming to bear. So the breath weapon winds up being the same as the others. You can do it equal to your proficiency bonus. The damage is the same. Your DC is the same, and each you exhale a cone. It's a dex save to resist or to take half, and you get a resistance related to your ancestry. So getting as a first level character access to resistance to these rare damage types. I think I'm going to be seeing a lot of Gem Dragon Dragonborns running around games in the very near future.
Well, also like the description that people are going to come up with for their characters, and yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. So we also get an ability called Psionic Mind. You can telepathically speak to any creature you can see within 30 feet of you. You don't need to share a language with the creature, but the creature must be able to understand at least one language. Your communication doesn't give the creature the ability to respond to you telepathically. Hello, Circle of the Moon Druids. So much goodness there.
So again, anytime they begin giving racial abilities to do telepathy, even a one-way communication, this opens up so many more things. It allows you to communicate concepts. It allows you to, as Dave says, talk while in wild shape or what have you. But it even goes in another direction of like, all right, it doesn't indicate that the person receiving your thoughts, your telepathic speech, knows that it's you who is doing it. So like you could totally be like hiding, and I'm like, I'm gonna mess with that guy and just start, shouting into their mind or, putting these dark thoughts or what have you. So it's going to be open to a lot of DM interpretation as to, how this type of thing goes. So a lot of fun. I'm eager to see what things happen, but that's still not the only thing. There is another power that Gem Dragons get. They get Gem Flight. Starting at 3rd level, you can use your bonus action to temporarily summon an array of spectral gems that match your gem ancestry in the shape of wings that last for 1 minute. For the duration, you gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed and can hover. Once you use this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest.
So, do you have a favorite Dragonborn now?
Well, I mean, just for the fact that the Gem Dragons are interesting and something new, I would definitely be looking to go, for one of them just to check it out. Again, I like the idea of being able to have that one-way telepathy.
Yeah.
And then, I would look at these things. I'm very fond of the Gem Topaz, but being resistant to necrotic damage would be like, all right, is that what I'm looking for, or would I choose something else? So I think I would try to thematically make my character whatever class I was going to associate in subclass, what I would feel would fit there. I think a mage that's an amethyst would be a lot of fun. A cleric who's a topaz, who's like, all right, I'm already going to be resistant to necrotic damage. This is pretty cool. And you go from there. So again, you could have a lot of fun.
Moon Druid all the way all those abilities work in your wild shape forms. And
True.
You could be like a flying tiger.
Or, you could always go an Emerald Barbarian, just saying. Resistant to psychic damage.
Oh, yeah, Bear Totem. Yeah. That's very thematic.
But, so that's it for the Dragonborn. What do we have up for the Kobold there, Dave?
So Kobolds, some of the smallest draconic creatures to walk the plains. Kobolds display their draconic ancestry in the glint of their scales and in their roars. Legends tell of the first kobolds emerging from the Underdark near the lairs of the earliest dragons. In some lands, kobolds serve chromatic or metallic dragons, even worshipping them as divine beings. In other places, kobolds know too well how dangerous those dragons can be and help others defend against draconic destruction. Whatever their relationship to dragons, kobold scales tend to be rust-colored, although the occasional kobold sports scale color more akin to that of a chromatic or metallic dragon. The roar of a kobold can express a range of emotion: anger, resolve, elation, fear, and more. Regardless of the emotion of kobold expresses, the roar resonates with draconic power. Yo, kobolds have come a long way since my earliest days of D&D.
the roar resonates with draconic power. Just that one sentence. Does that in any way, shape, or form line up to the term kobold in your brain there, Dave?
Not at all. I mean that, like, so in AD&D, they were these rat, lizard, chihuahua things. And then in third edition, they did get a very draconic look, but were like, they were like a 6 CR. So a house cat was a quarter CR. So if you just had enough cats, you could take out the kobold warrens by flooding them with domestic cats.
Yeah.
So like they upgraded their appearance, but they were still at the end of the day, they were just kobolds, right? So they've kind of had a different. They've had a bit of a story arc over the years.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the kobold traits.
All right. So right off the bat, it's pretty easy. You're humanoid. You're small. Speed of 30 feet. Dark vision out to 60 feet. Nothing new there. But now we get into something that's drastically different. Draconic Legacy. The kobold connection to dragons can manifest in unpredictable ways in an individual kobold. Choose one of the following legacy options when you select this race. You have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition on yourself. You know one cantrip of your choice from the sorcerer spell list. Intelligence, wisdom, or charisma is your spellcasting ability for that cantrip. Choose when you select this race. Or you can make an unarmed strikes with your tail. When you hit with it, the strike deals 1d6 plus your strength mod, bludgeoning damage, instead of bludgeoning damage normal for an unarmed strike. So,
I want to make a monk and I just attack with my tail.
So every time you give a race ability that has a unarmed attack that does more than a die 4, it just makes me angry. Because that's where a monk starts. So, like, all right, you train to be able to get your fists, for however long it takes, up from a single point of damage to a die 4, which could still technically be a 1. So to have a race who's like had no training of like, yeah, I can just do this. I can hit it with my horns. I can punch it with my fists or claws. And it does short sword damage. It just hurts a little bit. So to me, this is too much for a kobold. I love the other options. Getting a cantrip, being immune, not immune to fear, but being able to get advantage against fear. One of those things, great. If you were to say the tail is a die 4, I'd be pleased as punch and be like, sure, you can be equal to a monk, and I'm not going to complain. But better than a monk? Grr.
And those tails are kind of short and stubby, to be honest with you, for that die 6. At least the kobolds pictures I've seen. So, it just seems like a bit much. The other things are kind of interesting and flavorful. I just keep, I'm blown away by this kobold. Kobolds have come a long way.
Indeed.
Draconic Roar. As a bonus action, you can let out a Draconic Roar at your enemies within 10 feet of you until the end of your next turn. You and your allies have advantage on attack rolls against any of those enemies who could hear the roar. You can use the trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all of expended uses when you finish a long rest. So what we have here is, they're like, pack tactics is a little bit too good. Sunlight sensitivity kind of sucks. This is the compromise.
Yeah. So,
Draconic Roar.
So somehow we have gone with this feral dog lizard creature in the past editions that is terrified of everything unless it's like in its home area that's controlled by a dragon, and it's like, all right, you might kill me, but my master's going to eat you. To this thing who is apparently gotten so much of a bump up that this itty bitty little, dragon man can roar and inspire his allies to fight better. No problems, but man, what an upgrade. All right, so, we like the kobold, but what's up next, Dave?
So next we have feats, and at first I thought maybe these are going to be some like racial feats, and that, it was going to be tied to that. But no, basically there's a little spiel about, in some way you've connected with dragons, you've killed a dragon, you were gifted by a dragon. And that's where these feats kind of come from. Gift of Chromatic Dragon is the first one. You manifested some of the power of a chromatic dragons, granting you the following benefits. As a bonus action, you can touch a simple or martial weapon and infuse it with one of the following damage types: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison. For the next minute, the weapon deals an extra d4 damage of the chosen type. When it hits after you use this ability, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. When you take acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison damage, you can use your reaction to give yourself resistance to that instance of the damage. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So kind of like a absorb elements light
Right.
is what I'm seeing, the feel I'm getting.
I dig this feat, and having played in a game where we've been fighting a bunch of dragons, and typically we're fighting chromatic dragons, this is certainly something that I would consider taking, uh, because it's definitely a lot of fun, very very thematic, and is going to be really helpful in the game. So yeah, I definitely digging that one.
Yeah, I mean, giving yourself resistance against different energy types, your proficiency bonus, or you get to use it a decent amount of times a day. And for one combat, you can light your weapon on fire or have it radiate cold or acid. So, all that is pretty cool. Then we have Gift of the Metallic Dragon.
So you've manifest some of the power of the metallic dragons, granting you the following benefits. You learn the Cure Wound spell. You can cast it once without expending a spell slot. When you do so, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest. But you can also, because you've learned it, cast it using a spell slot that you already have. The spellcasting ability modifier is Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma, and you make that choice when you take the feat. But you also can manifest a protective wings that can shield you or others from attacks. When you or another creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to manifest spectral wings from your back for a moment. Roll a die 4 and grant a bonus to the target's AC equal to the number rolled against the attack, potentially causing it to miss. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So I dig this one as well, and it looks like there's a theme going on here, giving you powers that use your reaction, which I think is incredibly
Yeah.
useful, given that there's not a lot of reaction powers in the game. Yeah, some characters are very prone to doing it. Wizards using shield or counterspell. Some things, who rely on getting a attack of opportunity, but I don't see a lot of characters with things that they can do regularly with their reaction. So I'm digging these options here.
Yeah, I mean, it suffers from the same thing as defensive duelists, but at least you have the other ability as well. I mean, adding a first level spell to your spell list one is great, especially if you have other spell casting classes that you can keep using it with, a free casting of Cure Wounds, and then having this ability as well. But not only can you use it on yourself, you could use it on an ally as well. So that does make it a step better, just with that alone. And then you combine it with the other stuff. I think it's not bad. So far, I do like the chromatic better than the metallic.
I would agree.
So next up we have Gift of the Gem Dragon. You've manifested some of the power of gem dragons, granting you the following benefits: increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma score by 1. Okay, we're getting a half feat here. When you take damage from a creature that is within 10 feet of you, you can use your reaction to emanate telekinetic energy. The creature that dealt the damage to you must succeed a strength saving throw. DC's equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus the ability score that you increased with this feat, or take 2d8 force damage and push them 10 feet away from you. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all expended uses after you finish a long rest. This is kind of cool and thematic as a half feat.
As a half feat, it's definitely fun, and again, it's a different option of the power that you're getting with your reaction. So whether you want to try to hurt somebody that's hurt you, protect you or an ally, or gain resistance to an elemental energy, I think all of them are useful. I would agree with you that the metallic dragon is probably the weakest of the lot, but none of them are in any way, shape, or form bad. So next up, we're getting into spells. This section contains new spells that the DM may add to the campaign, making them available to player characters and monster spellcasters alike. The spell table lists the new spells, ordering them by level. The table also notes the school of magic of a spell, whether it requires concentration, all of that normal stuff that's there. And the first one was the one that I was most excited to read. Draconic Transformation, 7th level spell. Casting time is a bonus action, so you can kind of get right into it. Range is self, verbal somatic material. You need a statuette of a dragon worth at least 500 gold. Concentration up to a minute. With a roar, you draw on the magic of dragons to transform yourself, taking on various draconic features. You gain the following benefits until the spell ends. You have blind sight out to 30 feet, which basically means if they're not within, total cover, you know they're there. Incorporeal wings spread from your back, giving you a flying speed of 40. When you cast the spell, and as a bonus action on subsequent turns for the duration, you can exhale a breath of shimmering energy in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in the area must make a dex save, taking 3d8 force damage on a failed save or half as much damage on a successful. So you don't turn into a full dragon and, claw, slash kind of nonsense. You just become Draconic, being able to breathe out this thing. You get wings that give you to fly. So you cast the spell, you can breathe. But then because, you've done it, you still have your action to either attack or cast a cantrip every round. So yeah, definitely digging on this one.
You have dragon powers, right? And also the fact that you can do this as a bonus action is super sweet too.
Yeah.
Only downside is its concentration, and you might be flying in the air when you lose it. It's just a thought. Here's what I got excited when I saw this spell, because I was like, oh, are we gonna get Dragonlance? Not that I actually care if we get Dragonlance that much, but it's like, oh, can we figure out what the next book is? So Fizzband's Platinum Shield is a 6th-level abjuration spell. It's an action to cast, range 60 feet. Components are verbal, somatic, material. A platinum plated dragon scale worth at least 500 gold. Duration is concentration up to a minute. So far, our spells are pretty expensive to cast. You create a field of silvery light that surrounds a creature of your choice within range. You can choose yourself. The field sheds dim light out to 5 feet. As a bonus action on subsequent turns, you can move the field to another creature within 60 feet of the field. The creature protected by the field gains the following benefits. Creature has half cover. The creature has resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and poison damage. If the creature is subjected to an effect that allows it to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage, the creature instead takes no damage. If it succeeds on a saving throw, and only half damage if it fails its saving throw. So this is really great because you're basically getting evasion, you have half cover, and you basically have resistance to most energy types. And you can move it around as you feel you need to during the battle, which makes it even more flexible.
Yeah, this is definitely a lot of fun. And to your comment about these spells being expensive, it does not say which the spell consumes, so you need the thing as a focus once. It's 500 gold for each of those things, but once you get it, you're going to be able to keep casting it unless you somehow lose it. But definitely a lot of fun, a lot of cool things with this. A mobile resistance, shield is just great, and essentially if they fail their saving throw, they're going to take a quarter because you breathed fire on me, I've got fire resistance, and I failed, so I take half damage. So it's really only a quarter because I've already got resistance. So yay good in my opinion. Next up is Flame Stride, 3rd level transmutation, casting time of bonus action, range self, verbal, somatic, concentration up to a minute. So it seems like all these spells are concentration related. The billowing flames of a dragon cover your feet, granting you explosive speed. For the duration, your speed increases by 20 feet, and moving doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. When you move within 5 feet of a creature or object that isn't being worn or carried, it takes 1d6 fire damage from your trail of heat. A creature or object can take this damage only once during a turn. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, increase your speed by 5 feet for each spell slot above 3rd. Additionally, the spell deals an additional 1d6 fire damage for each spell slot above 3rd. So usually you only see a scaling of one option when a spell does something. So I think this in and of itself is seeing a new mechanic where bumping up the spell does 2 things.
Yes, that usually is true. Usually it's only the damage, so we're going to do it. And also visually this is kind of fun because you get to leave that fire trail behind you.
Very superhero-y.
It is very superhero-y. And I also feel like this is going to be a great one for kind of control and manipulating the battlefield. So you can do some interesting things with that for sure. Next up, we have another name spell, Icing's Death Frost. It is a 2nd level evocation spell, casting time 1 action. Range self, 15-foot cone. Components are somatic material, a vial of melt water. Duration instantaneous, so we've moved away from concentration. A burst of icy cold energy emanates from you in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in the area must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, a creature takes 3d8 cold damage and is covered in ice for 1 minute, or until the creature uses its action to break the ice off itself or another creature. A creature covered in ice has its speed reduced to 0. On a successful save, a creature takes half damage with no additional effects. When you cast a spell using a slot of 3rd level or higher, increase the cold damage by a die for each slot level above 2nd. So here again, we're getting a control effect, we're getting a damage effect, and also, it's just another energy type, and it's a low-level spell, so you can really change up your repertoire.
So, do you think a 2nd level spell that if they fail, they're taking 3d8 cold damage and are mobilized until they use an action? Do you feel that's too powerful?
Well, I will say Thunderwave is a 1st level spell, does the same damage and has a push effect.
Right, so but it doesn't eliminate a speed at the cost of an action. So I don't know. To me that seems a bit much.
Only if they fail their save, and a buddy can break you out too. So
that's true.
I don't know. I'd have to see it in the game and see how often it comes up as a problem, but I think I'm okay with it.
All right, cool. All right, so we also have Nathirs Mischief, 2nd level illusion. Casting time and action, range 60 feet. Somatic material, a piece of crust from an apple pie. That's pretty specific. And I would think apple pie crust is going to be something that deteriorates. So you might have to keep eating apple pies to cast this spell.
Sometimes you got to take a hit for your magic, man.
Duration is concentration up to a minute. You fill a 20-foot cube centered on a point you choose within range with Fey and Draconic magic. Roll on the Mischievous Surge table to determine the magical effect produced at the start of each of your turns. You can move the cube up to 10 feet and re-roll on the table. So I have not read this chart, and I'm already loving this spell. Mischievous Surge, the smell of apple pie fills the air, and each creature in the cube must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become charmed by you until the start of your next turn. If you roll a 2, bouquet of flowers appear all around, and each creature in the cube must succeed on a dex saving throw or be blinded until the start of your next turn as the flowery spray waters in their face. On a 3, each creature in the cube must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be giggling until the start of your next turn. A giggling creature is incapacitated and uses all of its movement in a random direction. Or 4, drops of molasses appear and hover in the cube, turning into difficult terrain until the start of your next turn. Utterly ridiculous. I want to see other Mischievous Surge options because I don't think 4 is enough.
It's a lot of fun. That's Nathir, which is another name spell, and that is the god of, I believe, pseudo dragons and fairy dragons. So, yep, that makes a lot of sense. So we got another named dragon from the Forgotten Realms, Rafum's Psychic Lance. It's a 4th level enchantment. Casting time 1 action, range 120 feet. Components verbal, duration instantaneous. You unleash a shimmering lance of psychic power from your forehead at a creature that you can see within range. Alternatively, you can utter the creature's name. If the name target is within range, it gains no benefit from cover or invisibility as the lance homes in on it. If the name target isn't within range, the lance dissipates and the spell slot is not expended. The target must succeed on an intelligence saving throw or take 10d6 psychic damage and be incapacitated until the start of your next turn. When you cast it at higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 5th level or higher, the damage increases by die 6 for each slot level above 4th. It's an intelligence save. That's a lot of damage, but if they pass, they don't take any damage. So There is that.
Save or suck. I mean, 10 die 6 against a single target as a 4th level spell, not a problem in my book. 3rd level does 8 die 6 to an area.
Yeah.
Not a problem with that at all. In fact, I would say at higher levels, it should go up by 2 die 6 for each spell slot above 4th. But, that's just me.
Yeah, and also I just thematically like the idea that you blast someone from your forehead for some reason. And also it is cool that, like, if they're invisible or behind cover, but you know their name,
right?
You can be like, George, you're boned because I'm going to give you a headache.
So when I see that kind of option, the fact that we didn't get a final version of the Onomancer, I wonder if there is any further desires to kind of take that and go in another attempt. But who knows?
I don't know, or it's just the fact that it's that one's kind of related to the idea of the gem dragons, I think.
Right. So we have Summon Draconic Spirit, 5th level Conjuration. Casting time is an action, range 60 feet. Components, verbal somatic material. You need an art object from a dragon's hoard worth at least 500 gold. Concentration up to an hour. You call forth a Draconic Spirit and manifest an unoccupied space that you can see within range. This corporal form uses the Draconic Spirit stat block. When you cast the spell, choose a family of dragon, chromatic, gem, or metallic. The creature resembles a dragon of the chosen family, which determines certain traits in its stat block. The creature disappears when it reaches 0 hit points or when the spell ends. The creature is an ally to you and your companions. In combat, the creature shares your initiative count, but it takes its turn immediately after yours. It obeys your verbal commands, no action required by you. If you don't use any, it takes the dodge action and uses its move to avoid danger. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 6 or higher, use a higher level when the spell's level appears in the stat block. And it's got a whole stat block for what this creature is. It's a large dragon as a Draconic Spirit, and it's got some pretty cool abilities. It's got resistances, as you would expect. It's got condition immunities of charmed, frightened, and poisoned. It's got blind sight and dark vision. It can actually speak Draconic and understands the languages you speak. And it's got breath weapon, bite, claw. So yeah, fun little thing that you can use to terrorize your players.
So I mean, there's a couple things, right? One, starts off with a 19 armor class, not bad. 50 hit points, not that great. For a 5th level spell anyway. I mean, that thing could get 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot it without too much trouble. Your speed is walk speed, fly speed, swim speed, so you can use it all over the place. They actually get a bunch of resistances and immunities, like you said. But one of the other things is there's a shared resistance. So when you summon the dragon, you choose one of its resistances, and then you can have that until the spell ends. So it gives you a little bit of an extra benefit as well. And then it gets a breath weapon and a couple of attacks. So it's not bad offensively. It's decent. I just think that I don't think it's gonna last as long as one would hope when summoning a dragon into the world.
Yeah, 50 hit points, not quite gonna cut it for
11th level characters, right?
Yeah.
So
that is significantly less than what your mage is able to take, in my opinion. It's a 5th level spell. I mean, that should have a decent amount if you're expecting it to last an hour.
Yeah. Well, on the plus side, you never have to worry about the duration running out. But that being said, too, like there's you could use it for utility, right? You can summon it, and for an hour, you have a flying mount or a swimming mount that gives you resistance and has these other cool abilities. It's got decent stats, like the stats range from 10 to 19, which there's only one stat that's a 10. Everything else has a positive modifier. So it's pretty bumpy. And I mean, so for an hour out of combat, you have a dragon friend you can use.
There's definitely a lot of things that you're going to be able to use this for. As you said, it could be a mount, it could be a guard. With a 10 intelligence, that's enough to be able to handle specific tasks. It does not have to stay, within any kind of range of you. So it could
it's smarter than the barbarian.
Usually, depending upon the barbarian. But you can have a lot of fun with this. And let's face it, don't you always want to be able to summon a dragon in D&D? Come on, it's right there.
Who doesn't? If you like this video, check out our latest Unearthed Arcana. Before this one, Folk of the Feywild.
If you'd like to help support us to keep making videos like this, why not head over to Patreon and support us over there?
And as a thank you, you'll receive monthly 5e content for players and DMs alike, a chance to game with us, and more.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.